This is partners in the process, 'cause we're built better together.
Okay, today I have my beautiful, brilliant wife, Shelly, the other part of Limitless Vitality. And we're here today to speak to everybody on why we decided to start the Limitless Vitality group. It actually started as a conversation that her and I were having. She knows that I've always been passionate about helping people and talking to people in entrepreneurship, helping young entrepreneurs. But we noticed that there was this gap, not only in an industry, but a gap where people didn't know how to obtain very simple skills that they needed just to start businesses, or they didn't know where to go just to, start an LLC, or how to get their paperwork together for their banking, or just little stuff. So we kind of started delving into it a little bit, realized that it was an important thing that we were knowledgeable in for all the years that we've built business together. And so, Shelly, my wife, and I have been together for over 22 years. Okay. So we were together since we were teenagers, and everything that we have today, we have built together. She has been on the backside of the curtain, so to speak, but she pushes me and pushes everything that you guys see on the front side, the business as a whole. I mean, everything you optically see happen because she was on the backside pushing it. She was giving her input, her ideas. She is college educated. She has ran a classroom for 10 years. She's got major, minor, and she was going through, which we'll get into all this, she was going through work at Walmart, and she kind of worked up through the ranks there, and they tried desperately to steal her away for their management program, but she just wasn't interested. She had her heart set on teaching. So we're going to get into a little bit of who Shelly is. You guys know a little bit about me, and then we want to talk about why we started this. Other than the entrepreneur side of things, as a spouses, there was a very good reason why we started this. We noticed we had a lot of people reaching out to us as couples, and they were saying, how have you guys been together as long as you have and not let your business destroy you guys, like personally?
Right.
Not only has it not destroyed us, we have figured out a way to make it draw us closer together.
Right.
We're stronger now
Yes.
than we were 20 years ago.
Right. Because we have grown together versus growing apart. And I think with the business, we have definitely pushed each other. You're growing, so I'm going to grow.
Which my growth is, the growth that I've done in the last 2 years has now actually pushed you
Right.
to want to grow even more.
Right.
Which scares me a little bit because I feel like you're going to exceed me, so it's going to cause me to push a little harder
Right.
because you don't get enough credit
Right.
for everything that you do. And I'm glad you want to do this with me, that we want to do this together, because I want people to see how brilliant and beautiful and just intelligent you are
Right.
about business, and that a wife within a business who is knowledgeable and smart and has her own ideas and the way things should be and the way they should go, in her opinion, how that should validate in your actions.
Right. And we have really pushed each other, especially in these last couple of years, because you have started kind of this degrowth personally, which has helped you professionally. But watching you grow and watching you go through these different motions and stuff, I'm like, I used to do that when I was teaching. We did all kinds of professional development, and I would go take classes, and I would go do different things to kind of push myself and help me in the classroom. A lot of conferences.
Yeah.
So now that our kids are older, the older ones, and we still have the younger ones, but I have decided that it's time for me to push myself and go do some of this.
Yeah.
Also, personally and professionally. So for me, it's as long as we are pushing each other, and not necessarily in a competitive way.
Well, it
But
is to some degree.
to some degree.
But not to the detriment of either one of us.
Because I don't want to compete with you, though. I want to compliment you.
Correct.
And you the same with me. So we are definitely doing that individually and together.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun. But I have noticed with myself that I am at this place where I can go do some of this on my own.
Absolutely.
I can be independent, and I can do this on my own. And so I want to try to do these things. And watching you do some of these things on your own, I love to go with you. I love to be with you. But it makes me concentrate on myself and look at different aspects of myself that maybe I could work on also.
Right. It's just the the development side of
Yes,
that personally,
yes.
which does obviously pour into our personal life.
Right.
Our personal life, I'm sorry, obviously goes into our professional life.
Correct.
I don't think that you realize how much potential that you actually have sometimes. I think you bring it to the table and then you have this coping mechanism where you say, see, I know what I'm talking about. I know you know what you're talking about.
Right.
You've always known what you're
Right.
talking about, but you don't have to convince me. I know. The
Right.
secret is I know you know what you're talking about. The thing is, I just listen to what you say
Right.
90% of the time and things work out really well, but that was because you put your input in, you know?
Yeah.
And so if I think back when we were teenagers, you know what I mean? And the time that we spent together personally and so that we interpersonally we knew each other very, very well.
Mhm.
We traveled together. We went out every weekend. We go out on the evenings. We did work together for a good period of time. Probably 4 years, probably 3 or 4
Something like
years.
that.
We worked together. But the bond that we created with each other when we were younger like that, I think is what probably played into us being successful together as a couple through everything, through kids, through marriage, through all the hardships that we've been through loss in our families, through everything that we've been through. It's drawn us closer together.
Mm-hmm.
So people ask me, one of the biggest questions that I have got
Okay.
when people reach out is they say, how are you not at each other's throats all the time? And how is it not the stress of business not destroyed you as a couple? And so, like I said in the very beginning, not only has it not destroyed us, it's actually drawn us together. But from your perspective, I want you to explain to people what it is about me or what it is about your position in our relationship that caused you not to pull away.
Well, first of all, I think we both love business. Even when I was younger, you know, I wanted to go into teaching. I love working with kids and stuff like that. But I had always thought, you know, I would love corporate America. I would love to do something, run a company, work with a company.
You love dressing up.
Love
you
dressing up,
being
love
the
that kind of
you
stuff.
love talking
Yes.
to people.
So I can do that. But I also loved a classroom.
Mhm.
But I also think a classroom can run a lot like a business.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You have different protocols, you have different things in place, and kids are so fun because they're not too hard on themselves. They don't judge themselves when they're younger. I mean, I worked with second graders, so my kids were like 7 or 8. And they had fun with it. So
Right.
it was so fun to be with them. And I think as we get older, you're harder on yourself. What do people think about me? Are they going to like what I have to say? So, I mean, I think it makes you a little more self-aware, kind of,
Sure.
and it's hard to put it all out there. But with us, we have grown together. And I think starting the trucking company from the ground up really was a learning point for both of us.
Sure.
But we had fun with it.
Well,
And
'cause we didn't even know if that was something that we wanted to do. That the organic
right.
way that actually came to be was we were having dinner
Right.
with your sister and her husband at the
Mhm.
time, and he had a friend who worked for a company in St. Louis
Mhm.
that said that they had these box truck drivers
Right.
that were making good money and they were working on their own. At the time, I was going through college for business management, and my idea was that I'd get my degree
Mhm.
and that I would run somebody else's business. That's always been
Right.
our idea. The idea of owning our own business, never on my radar.
Never.
Never on the radar,
No.
right? Never on the
No.
radar. So, and I think that comes from a lack of our backgrounds with our family. They never ran businesses. Now your dad did to some degree.
He did.
You know,
Yes.
they had the repair shop and all that he did with his dad.
Well, the painting
painting
company, yeah.
So, but that was different than
It
things are
was
today.
different. Yes.
It's different. So I don't think that we were ever taught that we grew up to
It's
be those
risky.
people. It's risky.
It's risky.
It is risky, and that's something that a lot of people, I think they understand, and that's why they stay away from it.
Right.
They don't want to take on the risk because they don't think the reward will be worth
Right.
it. They don't want to fail.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this over and over again. I probably talked about it in every podcast
Mhm.
with everybody I've talked to. Failure is a teacher. It should not steer you away. When you fail, you should learn from that, and when then just don't repeat it.
Right.
You know, and there are times when I know this all started and we doubted ourselves. We're like, I don't know, can we buy a truck? Where do you even buy a truck from? People don't realize you just can't go to a bank and buy a commercial vehicle. They'll lend you $100,000 on a brand new Mercedes before they'll give you $25,000 for a commercial
Mhm.
box truck.
Right.
They look at you like you got two heads if you're at the wrong place. That's a whole nother story. So, you know, getting that all together, going through that, learning about the expenses behind all that, this was just the operational part. At the time, I was, you know, building my licenses. I had worked for a couple different
Yes,
companies.
yes.
I was upgrading my licenses that I went through. But while I was going to college, it was just a necessary part of my job.
Right.
And I'd go to you and I'd be like, so I have this opportunity to go from a Class B to a Class B with air brakes, or a Class B with air brakes to a Class A with air brakes. What do you think? And you're like,
Do it because they can never take it away from you.
Right.
If as long as you can do it, as long as you can pass the test and you have somebody willing to teach you, you might as well do it because once you have it, you have it.
because you haven't been a teacher for
For
going on
10 years now,
right?
yeah.
But you'll never get rid of that license.
No.
We were joking last night. You said it's good till I'm 99.
Yes.
And like, I don't know why 99, but my license is good till I'm 99. So that's something no one can ever take away from you.
Nobody can
too,
ever take away from me.
you know?
Yes.
And even within teaching, we talked about the management side of things at Walmart, but they actually were trying to pull you into administration.
I
and
was
teaching
taking
too.
some administrative classes and stuff. Yes.
So
Also,
business has
but-
always kind of been in your
Yes,
blood a little
love
bit,
it.
but we were never brought up that way.
Right.
So we never thought that owning one was ours.
Right.
That was something we would do. So I thought we'd work for somebody else. Got the licensing, heard about this opportunity. You and I went home and we had a hard conversation. We said, worst case scenario,
It doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And you're back to working for somebody else like you were before. What did you lose?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Together.
Yeah.
We did that.
Right.
So this is something, this is foundational blocks that we're laying out right now. When you are with somebody and you support them and you love them and you see that vision and you believe in what they're able to do, that we'll figure it out mentality was very pivotal in our personal growth and our business growth. Because she knew even if I failed, she'd be right there to help pick me up.
Why do you think you would fail? You're not going to fail.
There's always a chance.
I'm going to push you.
Sure.
You're going to push yourself. If this is what I want, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Because all you can do is try.
Yeah.
All you can do is try. And I mean, you had jobs in the past where you would come home and you're like, this isn't going to work for me. I
That one
cannot
job,
do it.
I was in tears.
can't
You
do
picked
it.
me up. We were going to go to Six Flags. You picked me up from the job in Pacific, and I was in tears. And I said, I cannot be in this job one more day.
Yes.
It's killing me. I cut my salary in half
Yes.
to go to another job the next week because I just wasn't happy. And people say to follow your happiness. Yes, to a degree. Don't be unhappy for the money.
Oh my goodness.
Don't be unhappy.
It was
for the money.
awful.
It was awful. I just could not deal. I did that job for 6 months. I just could not deal.
Couldn't do it.
It was factory. It was assembly. And I found out really, really quick, that was the first assembly job I ever had, that this was not the life I could ever live. I could not do. And I was working alongside guys that had been there 12, 15 years, happy as a lark, every day, putting in their time, get their raise when they're raised.
Right.
And they
So
go
the
home
next
to their
day,
family.
you called in, you started applying at some other jobs.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You were offered one, and
lumber
then
company,
lumber
local.
company,
Yeah.
which is how you started getting your licenses.
Yep.
And I mean, it all just kind of spiraled really from there.
Yeah.
So then when you were able to get this job at SIVA and start the trucking, adventure and stuff, that's kind of where the business started.
So I
us.
started SIVA with a box truck, single box truck, which I said we scraped together everything we could
Yeah.
for down payments.
I was
bank to
teaching.
bank. You were teaching.
Yeah.
You kind of covered the big part of the bills because you knew that once I got things going,
Right.
we'd be okay. We had one son at the time. He was, I think, 1 or 2.
One
He
or
was
two.
He was 2 because it was 2012.
Yeah.
We had him in 10. So then we only have one son. We got one son, 3 girls.
Right.
From 1-year-old to 13 years old
Right.
now. So we have 4 kids. So we'll get into that too. How you grow a family and grow business.
Yeah.
And it can be very difficult. But anyway.
But so much fun and so worth it.
It is
and,
what you make it.
And I back real fast to that though, but what's so neat about the business is we do get to be a little more flexible now,
Yeah.
which we didn't get to before.
We get to be more flexible,
Right.
but not originally.
Right.
The amount of time, people think they want to be their own boss because then they can make their own hours and they have their own time.
Right.
That is a misconception.
Right.
That's not true. The amount of time that you have to put into your own thing versus working a 9 to 5 for somebody
True,
else,
yes.
triple.
Right.
Because we'll get into that too. About
Yeah, you
how
forget some of that.
you do sometimes.
It's kind of like having a baby. You forget how hard it is, and then you've got the reward, and you're like, oh, okay, I can do this again. And then you start all over again, and you're like, wait a
holy
minute.
smokes. Yeah, I don't know. What did I get myself into again? And then it gets easy again. It's
Yes,
the pain
yes,
threshold.
yes,
You
yes.
find it, you
Yeah.
reach it. But you you said that you understood that if I could get this going and that you didn't know where it would take us, but you
Right.
believed that we could grow it. And at the time we thought single owner operator,
We didn't know
Be a
any
good
different.
job. We were shooting for $100,000 a year.
Right.
We said we'll make $100,000 a year. I want to make six figures. That was always the American dream, if you would, at that time when I was younger. I want to make six figures. So we started there, and that quickly escalated. I think 8 months in, they needed a semi-truck. Well, they had one semi-truck driver there at the time. Everybody else was box truck drivers. We had some large accounts that required moving of multiple stores at once that they had to put on several box trucks. They wanted to put it all in one truck. The owner-operator that was there left because he had a truck that kept breaking down. And I said, well, I got a Class A with air brakes. The funny thing is, the way I got my Class A with air brakes was in an F550 flatbed with a 40-foot rollback trailer, gooseneck trailer. I never drove a semi-truck, ever. The day I drove a semi-truck for the first time was the day I bought one and drove it off the lot. I didn't even know how to shift it. I was grinding through the gears. You called me. You're like,
but what an opportunity. How do we not take the opportunity? How do we not try this? And
scale of pay was different. It all went up. We kind of weighed.
You were the only one.
I was the only one. So scarcity, I'm like, these are terms now we understand have a reason behind them. It's something you can strategically use. Back then we were just swinging by the seat of our pants. And we did what we did, but now there's terms for it. But we're like, I'll be the only one. And I maintained that for years. Nobody else came in and stomped on me. And I did really well. I did to the point where not only did I have that, the box truck we ended up selling after trying to do a lease program with somebody that didn't work out. And then I sold it. And then I bought a cargo van, because I told her, I said, I'm driving an hour and 15 minutes to work every day on a lane that's very hot that they're doing residentials on. So I got rid of my personal vehicle, went and bought a Ram ProMaster, and I drove that Ram ProMaster up to work every day doing pickups. I parked it, got my semi-truck, drove my semi-truck all day doing routes, came back, parked it, loaded that van back up with residentials, and then did residential deliveries all the way home. And what did you guys do as we were growing our family and going through? What was going through your head as time became like, first of all, time. What time are you going to be home, honey?
Right. So that was a big deal, because you were never good with your times, because you always very optimistic, always underestimated.
Always.
So it got to where we would be waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I would make promises to the kids, because we would have had about two then at this point. And I would make promises to them and say, well, as soon as your dad gets home, we're going to go do this or we're going to do that. And it got to where I eventually, after so many disappointments, you couldn't be disappointed anymore. You were working. It wasn't like you were...
You were mad at me, disappointed. It was just that our expectation was A, and we kept getting B every time. And why am I constantly waiting on A?
Unforeseen things, though. Tires would blow, or
something took longer to deliver. They wanted extra help.
Did. So, it got to where
it's further out than I realized. The person wasn't there. You name it.
So we just quit waiting. So I would take the kids, and we would go, and we would do. And I would know as soon as you would get home, or as soon as you could, you would meet us. You would get in your van, and if I'm at the trampoline park, you're going to meet me at the trampoline park. If I'm in Branson, you're going to meet me at Branson. Because we had waited one night for you to get home. You're supposed to be home by 4 or 5. And 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I'm upset. You're stressed because I'm putting stress on you. Because you're not
worried
here.
About not making it home, and I knew I was supposed to be there at that time.
And the kids are looking at me like, why aren't we leaving? And I'm like...
It was a short trip as it was. We were only going to be gone for maybe 2 days. And that was kind of part of it.
But I'm like, what am I doing? So it made me more independent, because I'm like, I'm just going to go.
But not bitter.
Not bitter.
Yes.
But independent, to where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go. And as soon as Bobby can be here with us, he will be here with us.
It was the understanding that Bobby's doing what he's doing for us, so that I don't have to work no more.
Well, at this point, I wasn't working. Yes.
And that... we're going to Branson. It's a little vacation. This is what affords us to be able to do these things. Bobby's not upset or demanding me to wait here for him. He's saying, if you guys just go, I'll be right behind you. And I'm sitting here going, why am I waiting? Why am I putting the kids through this? Where we're going to get down there at midnight. I could have got down there at 7, and we could have had our pizza and our evening stuff that we do down there, and then, called it a night. And so it just gets to the point where you start to kind of form your life around your business.
Now, and it's got to where what's funny about that is, even to this day, most places we go, we take 2 vehicles.
We do.
Because something always is coming up, or you take these kids and I'll take those kids.
If the potential's there,
yes,
we just do.
We just do.
Or now we'll do it like we can go together, but I can't stay as long as you guys. So I
Right.
have to break back a day early.
Right.
It's not a big deal no more.
No.
The amount of money I spend in gas and the time in that vehicle being separated going down there is more than worth the headache of everybody having to get packed up and come back on a dime when really we just, you guys stay and enjoy yourself. We have learned to live life on our terms.
Right.
Because if we didn't, it would have broke us.
Right. And when the kids were little, we would follow you places. You know what I mean? You were going to be out working late, or you were in Jeff City, you were in Kansas City. I mean, it didn't matter. We would go meet you.
Yes. I would used to run a route along my journey after SEVA and all that. I got into auto hauling. Multiple different vehicles, sizes that I've had in auto hauling, everything from a 3-car hauler to a 9-car carrier, full outfit auto hauler. But my lane was Kansas City to St. Louis. That lane took an immense amount of time. It added a whole nother stress when you're loading and unloading cars and you're getting them out of auctions.
Especially in the beginning.
Especially in the beginning. And then you add in winter and snow and cold weather, tires, things not starting.
Yes.
I mean, planning for that, nearly impossible. We tried. I was always off by a couple hours, almost always. I've got pictures. I tell people I've got pictures of like my auto hauler. I finished the load up and I stood back. I always took pictures. I've got hundreds of pictures. And the moon is right above all the cars because it was like midnight when I had gotten done with that load. So
because a lot of that too, it would be like, it would take a whole day for you just to go pick up all these cars and get them loaded.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to unload to get this one loaded. And you'd go back and forth with that. And then the next day, you'd be like, okay, I'm heading to Kansas City today. I got to drop all these off. Sometimes different places. Then I got to be different places.
Different places. And if it was an auction,
it was very,
the auction lot was a mile from where they were at. So you either waited for this van that came around to pick you up and take you back and forth, or you just walked or ran, or if you had somebody else there, some of those car haulers, what we would do is like he would bring a car down, like I'd see with the guy that was parked next to me, and then I'd be taking a car in. Well, he'd jump in with me, we'd run in, then we'd go and we would just keep relaying back and forth, and we'd help each other. I've seen some guys, they brought scooters, little electric scooters, and they'd run those scooters up and in, and they throw them in the back seat and run their cars. Because I mean, time's the name of the game. Right. You're trying to save time.
And you were missing so many things at this point. I mean, people don't understand like Christmas concerts,
birthday parties,
4th
of July,
school activities. I mean, a lot of things.
Teacher conference.
No, I mean, so many things that you missed. So I was taking care of all that stuff, and I mean, thank goodness for FaceTime and all that stuff. But you still missed a lot of things, and so what we would do to kind of counteract that is if you were going to be somewhere, the kids and I would come meet you. We'd come meet you to dinner. We would come
Kansas
meet you.
City,
yes.
One of our favorite places to eat is Hibachi Grills.
We found it.
We found one. Yeah, we found one in Jeff City that we actually really like. Well, Highway 50 runs right through Jeff City, and that's the lane I would take back and forth to Kansas City because the auction was on the south side of Kansas City, and it was the easiest way to come in to and from St. Louis and then to my house. So we would stop. They would come up an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, meet me there. It took me about 2.5 hours, 3 hours, somewhat like that, to come out of Kansas City. We'd meet in Jeff City. We'd hang out for an hour. I'd take my break. We'd eat lunch and stuff. I'd say bye to the kids. And the kids even got to where they were like, because you taught them. You're like, listen, Dad's working, but he'll be home. Yeah. And it was like, all right, Dad, you got to go to work. Okay, I love you. They give you a kiss. And for a long time, that didn't bother me until it got to the point that I'm like, they're comfortable with me just not being here no more. And that started to bother me. But
that is life.
It is.
It's
and
hard.
When you're building business and you're doing it by yourself.
Right.
And when by myself, I mean, I had nobody else working for me at that time. Right. It was just me in a truck.
But it wasn't that they were forgetting you or anything.
Right.
But it's just that.
I mean, they literally would smile and be like, all right, Dad, love you. Bye. Go back. You're going back to work. And you're like, well, you're way too comfortable with me just not being here. Like, I don't want you upset that I'm not here. Right. But I do want you to be like, oh, well, I hate that you got to go back to work, but we'll see you when you get home. Instead, it was just like, see ya. And you're like, oh, okay, bye. And they just go.
Right.
So,
it does. It's hard on your feelings. It
is hard on your feelings. But you start to realize the one thing that I had always said, because we started this when we had Dominic and he was 2, was I have to grind as hard as I can now so that I can be around more when they're old enough to understand that I'm finally gone.
Right.
So by the time Dominic hit 4 or 5 years old and was asking, where's dad? Why is he not at the birthday party and all that? I started hearing those things. I'm like, we have got to make a shift. We have got to shift. Either we're a hamster on a wheel, spinning our wheel here, and we're just doing this owner operator thing. Just basically at that point, I'm working a job. So I call myself a business and I call myself an owner operator, but really I'm working a job. I created something that I have to work that is now an occupation. It is something that occupies my time for a paycheck.
But you become dependent on that paycheck to where it is hard sometimes when you would tell me, I can come to the birthday party, but we're going to lose out on this kind of money today. Where are you at with that? Well, we'd kind of have to look at things sometimes and we'd have to weigh it out. You know what I mean?
Do I miss this $1,000 load to go to make this birthday party, or do I maybe miss half the birthday party and get it picked up? So then, can I move the load? Can I adjust the time frames? Can I move the schedule around?
So we really did try to be fluid with you, and if it had to do with our children and stuff like that, making it to where it always made sense.
But I was working with other people, so I would have to call them. I was working with other companies, and we were doing work together. So they would do some of my work out of St. Louis. I'd do some of their work out of Kansas City. We'd go back and forth. I would have to call them and say, hey, will your customer mind if I don't drop this off tonight and I drop it off tomorrow maybe?
Right.
Sometimes they were okay with it, and sometimes no. And I made that commitment to them if I was going to do that load. So then who gets disappointed in that? Who do I have to let down? Right. It's always you guys.
But the older two kids now, it was harder for them. The younger two kids that we have today, they don't see it.
They don't know because I
don't
was
know
always
any
around.
Different. Yes.
Yeah. So the two older ones. So the gap you've got
different to see.
You've got 1 year old and 3.5 years old, or 3. And then you've got 10 and 13.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty good gap between those two. So like she said, the two older ones, they understand what it was like for me to not be there and then to be there more. Whereas the younger ones, they don't know any different. Mm-hmm. Because as I started growing a team, I got an opportunity to start something outside of auto hauling. I added one guy on, bought another truck, and I started realizing that if we wanted to scale our business and actually create something that was a revenue stream for us without us having to work it every day, that I had to bring other people on to do these jobs. I had to increase my revenue. Yes, I had to increase my expenses and my overhead, but I had to delegate these jobs so that I could pull back a little bit less, a little bit more, do less of that work day in and day out, and do the management side of it. And not only that, but start to look at some other opportunities. Things that we understood that trucking wasn't what our passion was. It was actually the business. We loved business. And so we started getting into some other things. We started looking at other stuff, talking to other people, and kind of delving into some other things, other accounts, things that were outside of the industry. Like even if it was in trucking, it was different industries of trucking.
Sure.
We weren't just staying in that auto hauling or just in that dry van. We started getting into specialized. I started taking the skill sets that I had gained over the years.
Because you became comfortable, confident in yourself, confident in your abilities, everything you've learned, to put yourself out there and try other avenues and trying to really drum up more business for yourself.
What's crazy about this is, though, to kind of not circle back, but to get back to the relationship and business in general, was I had friends that marriages failed because they were so enthralled in their businesses that they lost sight of their spouse. For us, it never happened.
That never happened. But I think a big thing that we kind of take for granted, and we really didn't start doing it though until the last couple of years, is making plans for date night.
Time for
and
each other.
Date days and really pulling that out of each other. And when we go out, not always just talking about business. You have to talk about other things.
Which we enjoy talking about business.
Yes,
and so
we really do.
But, so we do find ourselves kind of, in that rut at times. But it's only if it's not the monotony part, it's the exciting part.
Right.
It's the future. We don't talk about the past a lot.
Right.
I want to talk about the past a little bit on here just so that people understand our history, why you're going to see us together, what we're trying to bring to everybody with this, what we're doing, is because we're only focused on what we're doing right now and what's to come.
Right.
And what we're working on. Because the past doesn't define us. It's not going to pull us back. It's already gone. But what's in the future, what's ahead of us, that's the bright light. That's the fun part.
But
that's exciting.
but our past was so good. I mean,
Always.
we've had some really good times, and we've really learned a lot, but
we grew together.
We did.
One of the things that people that happens to people, especially when they get together young, is as they figure out who they are. Because I mean, I was 17 and you were 19.
Right.
Okay. I was about to turn 18. So when we started dating, by the time you finish college and I finish college and I get into a career and you get into a career, we might not be the same people.
We
no more.
aren't the same people.
We're really
I'm
not.
not the same people today that I was
Not at
at
all.
19. Not that I was in my 20s, not that I even was in my 30s. I mean, the confidence that has come has been incredible, but I am so much more confident in who I am today. And I look at my niece, she's 20, and you know, she travels all over the world.
Yeah.
She's in college. I mean, she's such an amazing
Very
person,
decorated.
very decorated. And I'm like, what is she going to be like in her 40s?
only
I mean,
imagine.
you talk about a force. And I'm like, that's who I want to be. That's what I
And
want to
she's
be
looking
like.
at law school right now. So I mean,
Yes.
if she fulfills that, I can like she'll be my first phone call. Like, hey,
Yes.
I need to get you on retainer because she's a beast. I
She's
mean,
amazing. And,
yeah.
and the way she puts herself out there and she can do it on her own. And I'm like, if she can do it on her own, Bobby can go do things on his
20,
own.
She would take a trip to Paris for college.
Yes.
They would be coming in on X week, right? She would go a week early just to look around Paris and see how things by herself, fully confident.
Right.
Was completely fine with that. Yeah, I'm gonna go explore. I'm gonna check things out. She was.
I could have never done that.
Oh gosh, no.
I could have
there's
never
no
done
way.
that.
No.
You know?
No, I'd have been like, I gotta have somebody's got to come with me. Mom, you coming with me,
Right.
babe? You
I
coming
know. I
with me?
would have never
Who's
even
going
put
with you?
myself out there to even do that in the first place, though.
Yeah.
Today,
Oh yeah,
I would.
But in a heartbeat. Yeah, in a heartbeat. If you got
You
that
know?
opportunity, because
It's like, why couldn't I be like this when I was 20?
because something that we understand now that we didn't understand then was a little thing called opportunity.
Ugh.
People don't understand what an opportunity is, how to spot it or how to take advantage of it. They look at things like, oh, somebody invited me to go do this, but I don't have the money or I don't have the time. We have sold stuff off and disappointed other people just to make certain things happen because we knew that was a thing in our life that had to happen. It was pivotal for us. It was something that we could not miss that opportunity. We
Right.
don't miss opportunities.
Right.
We now spot opportunities in things and we go for it. We latch onto it. Both of us recognize it and we push the other one. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Right.
Together we need to do this. There's things that happen and we don't miss them anymore.
Right. Because you get to where I'll figure it out. You know, there was a trip, like something as simple as us going to Mexico.
Yeah.
I had an 8-week-old baby. By the time we were going to go, she would be like, 16 weeks or whatever. And you said, we were invited to Mexico. Do you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go, but I've got she'll be 4 months old. We've got the 3 other kids. How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know, but you would really like to go. And I'm like, I'd love to go, but so what did you do?
I just booked it.
You just booked it.
Because then you got to figure it out.
You figure it out. And
Yeah.
we did. It was
And we have a
great.
support system.
We
have
do,
people that are willing
we
to help us.
do.
We just hate to inconvenience people.
You hate to inconvenience people.
But I would do anything for them, and I do quite often.
Yes.
So I started thinking about that. I'm like, I bend over backwards for everybody, and they don't care to do it for us. So why
Right.
are we so worried about asking them for help for
Yes.
us, so that we can do this?
Right. And so now, too, we figured out we have babysitters. You find people that can come in and help out. And it's made such a difference in our lives,
Oh my
too.
gosh.
You know?
Just like professionally aside, personally, we are closer today. We talk to each other more candidly. We talk about our feelings. We open up to each other about things we have going on instead of exploding on each other.
Right.
Like I've told her before, and this was probably a pretty good turning point in our life, in my opinion, for me at least. I used to be pretty, I don't want to say hot-headed, but like my temper just would flare pretty quick. Not to the fact that I was abusive or anything of that nature, but like I might yell or I might storm off or whatever. And I had a lot of things going on that I was trying to work with. At the time, my health was really poor. I wasn't taking any of that seriously. And I told her, do you know that you can either set me off or pull me down equally?
Right.
Like you're the one person that can either light my wick and make me explode or completely extinguish it and pull me off the side of the cliff
Right.
at the snap of your
And
fingers.
I'm not
And she's like,
one-
I don't understand what you mean. And I'm
Yes.
like, when this happens, the way you can de-escalate this situation is
Right.
X. Well, then one day she just tried it.
Because I don't like to fight with you.
No.
We don't like to fight.
We very seldom do, to be
Right,
honest with you.
right.
It doesn't, I mean,
yeah,
stress is
I
in
don't want to
business and stuff.
escalate you at all.
And I don't want to do that for you either. I
Right.
mean, I don't want to make you cry. I don't
Right.
make you, and you're not a crier to
Because
begin
I mean,
with.
some people
but
like to fight. I mean, but
some
we
people
just
do.
we
just don't.
Right.
Yeah, some people do like to fight. I don't like to do that. I'm
Right.
just not a fighter. So, but I told you that, and that's something as a spouse. that I think was very important for our relationship was the fact that you understood that, yes, I understand he should be a big boy and he should know how to control his feelings, but at times I understand what he's going through, the stress he's got on his shoulders, the things he's dealing with. I'm dealing with the kids. I have stresses. And so for each other, I understand when to just be the calm in her storm, and she understands how to be the calm in mine.
Because I think, too, what happens is everybody has bad days. You have bad days. I have bad days. But the key is that we never have a bad day on the same day. So
true.
what happens is if you can tell early on that I'm having a bad day, even though you're having a bad day, you're going to turn it around because you want to support me. And vice versa. I see you're having a bad day. I might be having a bad day, but I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to have a great day today because he's having a bad day and he needs my support today. And so that's what we do for each other.
Yeah.
You can't have a bad day on the same day.
And unfortunately for us, there's times when your bad day is worse than my bad day.
Right.
And so when I look at what you're going through versus my problem, Alex Hormozy said this. He goes, if you can have a bad day for no reason, then you can have a good day for no reason.
Yes.
So I'd look at why I'm upset and I'd be like, I don't even know why I'm upset. Like I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, like we say.
Get over
it, right? So then I turn it around.
Yes.
And then slowly that pulls you out where it's not as bad for you as it is. Well, you do the same for me.
Yes.
You know? And after 22 years, it's like you would think those things would either diminish or get exhausting or the amount of business. I mean, we went from one truck and all that stress to, 8, 9 trucks, multiple accounts, lots of accounting, lots of running around, lots of parts fixing. All these pieces to the puzzle that have to go in. Then we add 2 more businesses, totally separate businesses on top of it. We take some
completely out of our comfort zone.
Completely out of our comfort zone, because the one thing you will know about me that I will preach day in and day out is being comfortable is dangerous. And the comfort zone is where people go to die. Right. If you want to move, if you want to grow yourself, this woman right here is taking herself out of her comfort zone immensely because she wants to grow. Yes. And she knows in order for her to grow, just like I told you guys a long time ago, that you're not going to see my face a decade back on my social media. She doesn't even have social media.
I do not.
She's never been on it, doesn't do it.
No.
Always been a private person, but she understands the impact and the power that we have as a couple to help other people. And I'm
trying to put myself out there and grow in the same instance. Like a month ago, we talked about a podcast. Absolutely not. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
What am I doing today?
We're here on a podcast.
And I'm like,
today.
I'm going to try it one time. Yeah. I can try it one time. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I tried it. Yeah. And my girls see it. My son sees it. You know what I mean?
It's there forever.
It's just...
Your youngest daughter, your oldest daughter, is going to look at this 10 years from now and be like, look at what my boss mom did back then. If she can do these things... Like my son was joking around yesterday and he goes, you guys are like celebrities in our school, which is stupid. Ridiculous. We're just doing things that normal people aren't doing every day.
And we're talking about real life, business, working together.
Yeah.
And what opens my mind up, I think, the most is our 3-year-old. She can come into a room. She is who she is. She's not embarrassed by it. She is just a happy little girl. And I'm like, we all used to be like that at some point. We didn't care what people thought about us. We were who we were. I went into the doctor office with one of them, and the 3-year-old is hopping in like a bunny, singing a song, happy as can be. Whole room lights up because she is just being herself. She's not doing it for attention. She's just being who she is. And I'm like, I can be who I am, be proud of myself, and hopefully help people along the way.
And so that energy that child has, that our child has, is infectious. And if you can take a note from her and say, in a page out of her book and be like, this childhood innocence, they've got nothing externally that causes them any strain or any, like, obviously they have bad days themselves.
Yes,
but as a rule of thumb, 5 seconds later, they're completely fine. They forget about it. They move on. Life's great. They have no stresses. It's just wonderful. Mom and dad's here. Brothers and sisters are here. I'm playing. We're having a good time. I get the things I want.
And it's, what do I want right now? Yeah. Right now. I am one of those people that I'm always looking at the schedule. This is what we have going on tomorrow. This is what we have going on next week. And I am really trying this year to live in the now, try new things, and be a positive influence for our kids, for people that are watching us, for people that are wanting to grow and learn, for women. But just live for the now. Try it now. Try it once and be proud of yourself.
Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? It doesn't go the way you wanted it to, or you don't like it, or you don't care, or you love it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or it's you found a niche, you found something that you really enjoy. It's therapeutic for some people. I have found that I actually really enjoy coming on here and talking to people. I
Right.
love talking. We always love talking to each other. I mean, we
Right.
do this all day, every day when we're together.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. But to bring this to other people and let them see a little bit behind the curtain about who we are, what we do, how we operate, and what makes us who we are. So people aren't just wondering,
Right.
like,
And when it comes to the business, you are more hands-on in the front, working that way. I'm more like the human resources aspect of it, policies, scheduling, what do you have in place for
the structure.
different structures. Yes, that's more my side.
So I'm
of
the
it.
operations guy. I
Right.
implement things. It's just, that's my nature.
I
That's
tell you what
do.
to implement.
She tells me what to implement. So she gives me the ideas, and I might cherry pick through them and be like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I want this one. Or let's set it up this way. She gives me the ideas sometimes, and then we pull those pieces together.
Right.
And we make our, we make our structure for whatever that system might be.
Sure.
I never gave her the credit for the fact that she was able to do that early on. As times went on, I've realized if you could do this in the classroom, and you're college educated to do everything that you do, and you've implemented that in the real world already and created everything that you created in that world when you were working in it, why can't you do that in business? It's the exact same thing, except for you're doing it for yourself instead of somebody else.
Right.
So it was hard for me to let go of reins at times. Like, just let them take care of it. I mean, I ran into that problem with managers because as business owners, we think we're the only ones that can do it. No one's going to do it as good as me. So, of course, I adopted the 80% rule. Now, that doesn't apply to her because she's on the 80% side with me. But it's if somebody can do something 80% is as good as you can do it, that's 100% awesome. And the reason that's 100% awesome, and Dan Martell says this, is because if you can take that time that you gave it to somebody else and it's 80%, and you get to spend 100% of time with your kids, or 100% time networking with other people, or 100% of the time in the quadrant of your business and life that is the most profitable spiritually, personally, professionally, business-wise, monetarily speaking for you, then that's 100% awesome.
Right.
No matter how you do that. So if somebody can give you 80%, and what you will find is some of those people you put in place do it better than you. I have put managers in place that do the management that I was doing better than me.
That's
and I
because
couldn't be happier about
They're
it.
seeing it through different eyes, though, than you.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong to them, but they also want to make you happy, and so they see it in a different way.
So that's where an entrepreneur is extremely important within a business, especially when you're scaling. And then you need to kind of really exit from that. Those entrepreneurs, man, that's a topic that's not talked about as much as I wish people would talk about it. I'm sure as time goes on, I will talk about it. I'll probably introduce some of them on these podcasts and stuff. And these are people that they understand your business. They take it personally. They take it as if it was their business, but they don't want any of the risk. But they want to be by your side. They want to run right with you. And as long as you treat those people fairly, they'll always be there. I mean, they're very pivotal in the growth of a business.
Absolutely.
But so jumping back and forth a little bit, with you guys following me around and stuff with the way business was going, we finally get to a point in life where I decide we are going to grow it to a point that I have to pull myself out of the truck. Okay.
Just a couple years ago.
This was about 2 years ago.
Yes, pretty recent.
Unhealthy at the time. Probably weighed about 300 pounds. Pre-diabetic, according to my blood work.
Sure.
Felt awful. No energy. We were trying to have our last child, and life just didn't seem like it was going the way that we intended. Like, why did we create something in our life that runs us into the ground? It's supposed to be something that brings us joy, happiness, money, and all of that was supposed to be used as a tool to help other people. And at that point, I think my real problem was I hadn't found my purpose. And I think to that point, you probably hadn't either. You just kind of were going along with me.
I think I had definitely a purpose when I was teaching and stuff. Loved that. Loved what I was doing. And then I took some time off to be home with the kids, help you with the business, support at home a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know after I had resigned from teaching, it was kind of hard for me for a little bit because I didn't know how I was necessarily going to fill my days. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be with the kids. I wanted to do all that. But I felt like I was missing something.
Yeah.
But then I really got into that role. I loved it. I loved being home. I loved helping you with the company and stuff. And now that I'm kind of transitioning again, you've kind of already transitioned. I'm ready to be back out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need more. I want to do more.
Yeah.
You know,
But
and
you're
we've had
finding
this
interest in some of the things that I'm doing. That you're
Oh,
like, hey,
absolutely.
I want to do some of those things too. That looks really
Right,
fun, or that
right.
looks like
I could learn from that. I could grow from
it's
that.
a venture I want to be a part of. It's something that I want to
Absolutely.
be involved in. So I mean, like I was talking about, we know people now. We've met people. They've got this concept of return on energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Love it.
love it. Right, love return on energy, because energy is something, like I said earlier, that's infectious. You pass it from people to people. Sometimes just
Yes.
being in the room with somebody that has that amount of energy, you can't help but get zapped by it. It just
Right.
is what it is. When you put yourself in a room full of people like that, it is something I can't even explain to you. So I've had the opportunity to be able to experience that, and I'm taking her to do that as well this year. This year is going to be a big year for us doing that on
Together,
personal development
yeah.
together, because we have decided, this year, rather than you just being basically a compliment to what I'm doing, you're going to be right there next to me. You've
Right.
decided to pull yourself up and stand right next to me because you've always been there.
Absolutely.
Just no one ever saw you. And I'm like,
Right.
babe, why don't you put yourself out there? People relate to us. They want to hear this. They want to know, how do I get through this?
Uh-huh.
And as a strong, powerful, independent woman of yourself, but also a beautiful energy that's complementary to me as a wife and a mother to our children, and anything, it's more than I deserve. We'll put it that way, okay? In
Yeah.
life, it is more than I
Been
deserve.
Great.
But to have that through all of these years, through the business, through everything we've done, and it not destroy us, people look at us and say, how?
Right.
I have a lot of people ask me that. like,
Right.
how?
And, after talking with Joey and working with Joey and stuff, who is absolutely amazing, and talk about such a positive energy. And I mean, he really kind of has brought me out of my shell a little bit with some of this different things we've been doing. But when you look at that and the energy that people have, I mean, it just makes you want to be a better person, and it makes you feel more confident in yourself that you can do it. And so I'm excited for some of these different conferences and stuff that we have coming up, and meeting these different people and just kind of seeing what the future holds for us. But I love business, and I definitely think sometimes in business, usually one or other, either the man or the wife, one of you is going to be a little bit more dominant.
Sure.
Sometimes it's going to be the woman, sometimes it's going to be the man, and sometimes
Absolutely.
it's going to depend on the situation.
Yeah.
Right?
So we've talked about the 50-50 scale before when it
Yes.
comes to a relationship.
Right.
It's not always 50-50.
It's not always 50-50.
50-50 means that both of you are pulling your weight equally. It doesn't mean that 50% of the time you are both carrying 50%. Sometimes it's an 80-20, a 70-30. Sometimes it's 100-0.
Right.
You know what I mean? And some days it's your
happens.
day, some day it's my
It's
day.
a bad day for me. It's all you. I'm like, tag, you're it.
Tag, you're it.
You know?
Yeah. But the 50-50 is that you both understand you're in this 50%.
Yes. But I am so excited to talk to couples in the business world to talk to the spouses and who's driving the force and who's the one kind of behind the
You
scenes.
can usually pick up on it pretty quick.
You can usually pick up on it pretty quick, but in the same instance, so people couldn't tell sometimes, but sometimes I'm the one behind you, kind of pushing, kind of running the show a little bit, but it wasn't always my face. It wasn't always me doing it, and vice versa. Sometimes you're like,
there might have been a situation that was implemented, or a new concept that was implemented. Fully 100% was your idea. Not only was it your idea, you structured it, told me how to put it in place, and said, go do this.
Right.
And I was like, that's a great idea. I'd never thought of it. Boom, I'd go do it. It was great. No one understood. That wasn't me.
It was my idea.
But guess who got the credit for it?
You.
I got the credit for it. And I did that.
Which didn't bother me.
It didn't.
That doesn't bother me.
But I'm in an era in our life where I don't want that anymore.
Right.
I want you to have the credit that's due to you, because I have plenty of my own.
Right.
Okay. We've done big things. We're doing big things.
Right.
I want to talk to other couples.
I want to talk to other couples.
I want to bring this to other couples. I want people to understand that even if you just want to be a supportive spouse and don't want to have this role, let me explain to you what a supportive, you are not an underling to me. You are not a submissive woman.
No.
Whatsoever.
No.
So it does not take a woman that's submissive and is just going to do whatever her husband wants to be supportive.
Right.
That's not the case whatsoever. I think that's a misconception. People think for him to be dominant and for me to support him, I have to be submissive. Not true at all.
No.
That's not true
But
at all.
it'll be interesting to see the different dynamics in husbands and wives, even in partners. And, even you don't even have to be married to be partners in business.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And it might be two women, it might be two men, it might be a woman and a man, it might be a husband and wife.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just interesting to see
Spouses.
all these different dynamics that come into play in business.
And how they work as a team.
Yes.
How they work individually.
Right.
Because we have aspects of our business where it's me and you. It's me and it's you.
Right.
And so there's things you do on your own, things I do on my own, things together that we do, things that I come back to you and I'm like, hey, how would you handle this? Vice versa.
Things I've learned.
Yeah. Same exact way.
Yes.
Because I think being able to adopt the perspective that no matter what you're faced with, your idea is not always the right one, or it's not the only decision or the only answer or whatever that can be made. I think that on a growth side as an individual shows how much you've evolved as a person.
Right.
That makes you a more powerful person to be able to accept when you're not right, when you're not the best answer, when you don't get credit for it and you take a back seat. When you can do all those things for the greater good of what you're trying to do, it shows how you're evolving as a person, your personal development. So we're very strong in personal development, professional development. The people that we've worked with thus far, we've worked with together. You've brought as much value to that as I bring to it. Like I said, I'm very hard on the operations side. She's very hard on the structural, the backside of it, really just the SOPs and just the basis of how some of this stuff needs to work from the accounting side. When you think about a classroom and the way that a teacher has to structure a classroom, wrangling kids is like herding cats. And if you can do that day in and day out for 10 years
and teach them something,
that we run into these kids now. And some of them are what, like 20-ish? Yes. 20s. And I'm like, they're like, oh, hello, Mrs. Guehne. And I'm like, who is that? Who is that guy? This dude with a mustache. Like, who's this guy? And she's like, oh, I taught him in second grade. I'm like, because for me, we've been out of Branson at the ice cream shop. Yes. And this one kid's like, oh, hello, Mrs. Guehne. And I'm like, who's this kid at the ice cream shop in Branson? And she's like, I taught him when he was in second grade.
He is going to college now. I mean, he will be a very successful person someday.
And I will tell you, undoubtedly, these people will see you at some point in time and they will go, that was my teacher when I was a kid. And she probably had an impact on them in some way, shape, or form. That impact lasts a long time. It lasts a long time with these kids. It'll last a long time when we're doing stuff with people now. Right. I mean, because some of the people we're working with are kids. Right. They're in their 20s.
Yes.
And they're
doing amazing things. They just need help setting it up and getting started.
They don't know where to start. Right. They don't have anybody in their life like we didn't growing up that already had established this and could give you the A through Z on do step 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. We didn't have that. We had to figure it out.
We figured it out.
We read, we watched other people, we picked up what we wanted to do, things we didn't want to do. Phone calls. There was, lucky for us, we had people along the way that were willing to give us some information, people that were willing to help us out. And then as you get later in life, you realize that, that's a whole different level of game. It's the way that you get into those rooms and with those people is a totally different, but that's where you elevate your game and you have to play the game to get there. So I am happy that you came on here with me.
Yes.
I'm so happy that you wanted to do this with me. I want everybody to understand that Shelly is awesome. She is great at what she does. She is 50-50 with me as far as conceptually when I bring things to people and even the implementation of operations. I tell them, this is what we're going to do. That structure was sat down and spoke to with her, and we laid that all out together before I brought that. Sometimes she comes with me and helps implement it. She says, hey, this is what we need to do. We talked about these are the apps you need. This is where you need to go to get this. This is how you need to download this. This is the form that you need. And then when we're talking about hiring processes for people and all kinds of stuff, I mean, she's got all of that administrative figured out for people. Me, I'm more of a hammer. Everything's a nail, and we just go get it done. You are a little bit more delicate with things. Things gotta be in their places, and that's needed.
Right.
Spouses and business, to touch on that before we go, the reason that we have been, I think, so successful personally and professionally together the whole time and have gotten stronger, and this is my opinion from my eyes, is the fact that you have always supported me, whether you agreed with it or not, you still supported me. If I failed, you let me see that on my own, and then you just kind of redirected and said, so why don't we try it this way now?
Right.
But you let me do that. You know what I mean? And you were always there to be with me, to pick me up if and be like, hey, it's okay. We can reorganize this. And we'll figure it out. We'll go a different route. You were always supportive mentally when I had issues. If I had issues, with my mother passing away or just different things in my life, like when I was struggling with my weight before I started that journey and we were trying to have a baby and all that. And when it got to the point where we were done with having kids and you said, no, I need you to go get tested. I need you to start working on yourself, which started a whole nother journey into my physical fitness and the doors that's opened just from the way that I feel to the way that I'm taken by people and the way that my positivity and my energy and how just confident I am as a person to walk into a room and to do things like this and to speak on a stage or to do whatever I'm going to do together or by myself. It doesn't matter. The reason that's always that I feel like we're like magnets.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We've
crazy.
Evolved so much.
Yes.
We love being together. We
Best
love
friends.
doing things on our own, but we thrive together. And, we run a household, we run businesses, and we do it together. We're happy. I mean, we are the real deal.
At times, do we have arguments, disagreements? Do we have bad
bicker.
days? When you're together with somebody, as long as we've been together and you live in the same household together, that's going to happen.
Right.
It happens from time to time. But I will tell you, 99% of the time, we'll say 95% of the time, 95% of the time, we are solid.
Right.
All the time. We don't choose to fight with each other.
We try to be in sync. I mean, even on the way down here, you were giving me a business situation and you're like, this is, this is the situation. And I'm like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to have in place. And you're like,
I haven't
well, that's
got
already,
to it yet.
we've already done that. And I'm like, but we're just, we're in sync. I mean, we just have.
Finish each other's sentences.
Yes.
We're just in each other's head. I mean, and I don't think that
the chemistry is there.
Chemistry is always there. I mean, I'm absolutely infatuated with you. I love you to pieces. Very sexually attracted to you. I mean, every aspect of our life has been strong and we lean into it and we just grow it. Any chance that we get, like we said, we've made it very important in the last 2 years to make time for each other.
Always did.
We did,
but
it
we
was
always took the kids with us. We
take,
didn't want to inconvenience anybody. I don't want to ask for a babysitter. It's too hard. It's too hard.
And we don't mind taking the kids. We enjoy the kids. We love spending that time, but we understand the importance of just us.
Right.
Having time for just you and I to be a husband and a wife.
And sometimes for me, it's like I know you've worked all day and stuff like that, but I mean, there's a conference coming up next week that I want to go to. And you're like, absolutely, you need to go. And I'm like, but I got to find somebody to do this and I need somebody to do that. And you're like, I will do it. Yeah. But I've never wanted you to ask you before. You know what I mean?
You're like, because I know you're busy and I got this. I'm like, but I know this is important for you.
Yes.
And I've taken this journey by myself at times. So I need you
and
to
I
go
think
do this
kind of
for
sometimes
you.
as a woman, you feel kind of selfish. Like, oh, I'm going to take time for myself. Like, how do I do that?
You have to.
Just do it. Just try, put yourself out there, go. I'm going to go by myself.
Yeah.
Completely out of my comfort zone.
Completely
because usually I would go with you.
Yeah.
Because
but you know what? I'm not going to go with you. I'm not going to go with you on purpose because I want you to do this on your own. Like I said, I've done these things myself on my own. Yeah. And what's crazy about it is when you're on your own, the only thing you have to focus on is just you and what you're getting out of this. The questions that you don't need to, how are you doing? Are you hungry? Do you need to use the bathroom? Are you feeling okay? How are the kids? You don't have to focus on any of that. You just get to focus on you.
Yes.
And what you're going to get out of this, what you're going to take from it.
And I know you'll take care of everything else.
I'll take care of everything
else. You got
else.
it. You
know? It's fine. That working together like that for each other is what makes us work as well as we do.
Right.
And it's always been that way. Mm-hmm. Okay. We never, and in that 22 years, it was never off and on.
No.
When we started dating,
that was it.
I need a break. That never happened.
No.
We were from day one on. We were
very, very fortunate and lucky that we found each other so early in our lives.
Most people don't.
But I mean, we have evolved together. It's been fun. It's been exciting, and things are still changing. And I think
chapters.
We are so much more interesting, and we've grown so much in the last couple of years that the sky's the limit.
And we have a lot to share. We have a lot to teach people.
Yeah.
We have a lot we want to teach people and we want to bring to people, and the energy and the experiences and just kind of some key points into how, I love sitting down and talking to people and letting them explain to me how they're currently operating things. I don't care if it's your business or your relationship, your personal life. It's crazy to me. I liken it to when back in the day I used to work on small engines. It was usually one of 4 or 5 issues. It was always the same 4 or 5 issues. And you could tell me the problem. I could go out there, pull that problem that I thought it was and replace it, and it immediately worked.
Uh-huh.
people's lives are like that sometimes.
Right.
When you've seen enough, when you've been through enough, when you've done enough, they're just so close to it. Either they don't know it exists or they just don't see it because they're so close to it.
Right.
So talking to people and not only helping them, I get personal, selfish gratification from that, but seeing what it does for them in their life and how they change and evolve and how they are able to grow because they got past this pinch point that they had. It brings this joy to me that I can't fulfill in any other way. It's a void that's in my life that I can only fill doing that with other people. And when I get to do that with you, with other people.
I mean, an example too is your brother, Ricky. I mean, he started a journey. He was working many years ago. He was working as a welder. Yeah. And then he came out because you had talked to him about trucking and stuff.
60, 70 hours a week, taking in all those fumes. He's a hard worker. Just never really got a fair shake at life. It's a whole nother story, but he just never really got a fair shake at life. And he's a hard freaking worker. He was a good dad. He's a great husband. He's got a beautiful, wonderful, smart wife who's very educated, very successful herself. And he just was like, there's got to be more to life than this grind of 70 hours a week welding. He doesn't even have certifications. Everything that he did for welding through Caterpillar even was self-taught. He just stayed after hours or came in early and he learned from the guys that were certified welders. And then but he was talking to me and I said, well, I've got this, I could teach you, I could get your CDL. You want to get your CDL? He's like, what kind of money can you make? We go down that whole road and everything. Next thing you know, he's sleeping in our basement for 2 weeks. Yeah. While I'm teaching him every single day. He's coming and doing loads with me to Kansas City at all hours of the night and stuff. Then I'm teaching him how to drive. We get a truck. I take him to a CDL training course so that he can get the pre-trip stuff down. And he put in the time. He dedicated. He read the book. He stayed in our basement reading that book for 2 weeks straight. He left his family to come stay with us to do this. Take him over, get his license. And then I get him a job with a guy because if anybody knows anything about trucking, when you have no experience trucking and you have a new license, it's very hard to find companies that'll take you on because a lot of insurance companies won't take you on either. You're too much of a liability. Anyway, I found a job. He's able to work this job for about 6 months, get his feet under him. Wasn't a great job, didn't really work out, but he was able to get that experience. Then that went to UPS, and then that went to Central Transport, and then that went to Kuna Foods. And now you fast forward all these years later, his life has changed exponentially because he put in that work, but I was able to help him, give him that opportunity.
So proud of him. So proud of you.
Oh my God. But I'm proud of him. Like I really he put that work in. I'm glad I was able to do that for him. He's said that to me 100 times. But
changed his life, though.
But he put that time in. But it changed his life. It really helped change his life. He's there for his kids more now. He's able to dictate his schedule a little bit better because they're real big into sports. So, but that's not the only person. I've got so many stories like that. And this was stuff I was doing.
But it makes you feel good.
So
makes you feel good. People are growing. They're changing their lives. And you're teaching them about business. Yeah. And about all kinds of different aspects that can
and a lot of that was
really
surface level. But now we're digging deep.
Yes.
Now we're digging deep into business. We're digging into business philosophy and concepts and not only the way that you just see, because some people just see something work and they think they got it figured out. They're like, oh, that's easy. You just do X, Y, Z. It's not always that simple. It's not. I can tell you 99% of the time it's probably not that simple.
With that situation, though, his wife had a lot of questions.
Tons.
You know what I mean? And so we were kind of able to work with her through some of that because she was kind of skeptical.
And built that trust
even though
with
that's what he wanted to do, she was kind of skeptical. And we're like,
for sure.
We can make this work, but you have to, while he's learning and while in the beginning, you have to be supportive. It'll never work if you're not.
The support is a really big key thing. I mean, if that wasn't picked up in this whole conversation that we've had, support from your spouse. If she was the one, or partner, I'm sorry, but if she was the one that was doing big things and it wasn't my ambition to do so, the support that I would need to give her would be the exact same thing.
Right.
Like I have to be there pushing you, letting you know I got this. I'm here with the kids, whatever the story might be. In your case, I'm here with the kids. We got this. And when to touch on a point real quick back before you talked about not waiting for me and the disappointment, what we realized was I was anxious and upset because I thought I was making you guys disappointed and upset, but you weren't disappointed and upset that I wasn't there. You were mad that you freaking waited. So you're like, if you're not mad that we go,
right,
and I'm not mad if we go, And so then now I take that disappointment off the table for the kids. I take the stress off your shoulders, and I'm good. I know you're going to catch up with us. We now just fixed all those problems because we had a communication issue
Right.
of not understanding why you felt the way you did, why I felt the way I did, and they were the exact same thing. We were just looking at it from two different angles.
And a point of that too is you never worked better than when you knew I was taken care of,
Absolutely.
the kids were taken care of, and we were busy.
When I can just delve into my business, like when you
Yes.
guys would take trips to Branson, say you'd go with your mother,
Right, for a
your
couple
sister,
days.
or whatever,
Uh-huh.
I never worked harder
Right.
than those days because
Right.
I could just fully dive into a project and just, it didn't matter how many
No
hours I worked. Nobody's at
pressure.
home waiting for me to get home.
Right.
They're busy. They're having a good time. I can hit them up on the phone, on FaceTime, and then I can just do work. I can
Right.
just work. It just gets to a point in life that as you're expanding as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a professional, you start to realize that that grind can't be all that's left out there. And when you get to the level that you want to move up, you have to figure out a way to get out of that grind. You don't want to create a job. You know,
And we're here to help with some of that stuff. That's
Yeah.
what we're here to help with.
that's what we want to do. We want to help people understand that there is a road, there is a path to that. We want to shine the light on it, and we want to show you the steps that you can take. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a short road. It could
It's
be a
not
long
easy.
road. It's
Might
not
not
an
be
easy
easy.
road. You know, there's no easy, quick. I seen something yesterday, and I pointed it out to you that everybody wants to know the quick, fast way to achieve something that, by all means, that we know previously is not simple. Like getting a degree in a profession that takes 4 years to get. And they want to know, well, what's the fastest, quickest way? That's the question they ask. That's how they word it. What's the fastest, quickest way? Why do people ask questions that way? Why is it that you want the fastest, quickest way? Why wouldn't you want the best, most efficient, effective way to do something? Why is it the fastest and quickest? Because we live in a generation where everybody wants instant gratification. If it takes 4 years to get that degree, how do I do it in a year and a half? Maybe you don't do it in a year and a half. Maybe it's 4 years. Maybe if you dive into it for 24 hours a day, you can do it in 2.
But that too is that delayed gratification that you talk about
Delayed
a lot.
gratification.
You know,
Yeah,
and
you-
that's something too that we try to talk with our kids about. But I mean, it's hard as an adult.
Yeah.
It's hard as an adult. If I want to buy this or I want this, I want it now.
Yeah.
It's not that's not always the best way.
But you have to enjoy the fact that if I wait for it, it'll be that much sweeter later.
Right.
So if you can really take that to heart and be like, you know, I understand this journey is going to get me to where this idea I have in my head, but it might take me 4 or 5 years. I smile at that because I'm like, that 4 or 5 years is going to be fun.
That's the story.
That's the story.
That's the story.
I don't want success overnight. I
Right.
don't want a 2-year story. I love that I've got a 12 plus year story. I love one day I'm going to have a 20, 30 year story. I love that story. And then that day, this moment will be part of a book that people
Yeah.
will be reading.
It makes you who you are.
It makes you who you are. And so embrace the journey. And
Yeah.
we're going to do that together with people
Right.
through Limitless. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're bringing to people together. Bobby and Shelly will work with spouses. We work individually. She works, individually with wives or the the female in the situation, so to speak. And I work with men and business owners as well, or we work together as couples. So if there's anything that we can do for you guys, there is a website and links coming out very, very soon. You guys can reach out to us, schedule a phone call or a consultation, and we'd be more than happy to sit down with you guys and kind of go over some things and see how we might be able to help you.
Right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honest